Brighton here. Matt here. Yes, my actual name is Matt. My first two names are Matt and Brighton, so yeah. And here we are with which Pokemon version is the better version to pick. Minus enhanced versions. So, if you enjoy, please do subscribe, and let's get into this reaction.
Greetings, Pokefans!
Greetings,
Michael here, and something that's been around since Pokemon got started was two versions coming out at the same time. The two versions are nearly identical, but they do have some distinct differences, primarily in which Pokemon you can find in the wild. At some point or another, virtually everyone who's played a Pokemon game has had to choose between one version or the other.
I've played both Sword and Shield, haven't gotten through Sword, got through Shield.
Today, I will be going through the version pairs and telling you which version I believe to be the better one to pick, based primarily on the version-exclusive Pokemon, since for most games, that's what makes the biggest difference. One big thing I have to clear up first, though, are the third version enhanced versions, specifically Yellow, Crystal, Emerald, and Platinum. These are often better than the originals because they have more things in them. They're called enhanced versions for a reason. Therefore, in most cases, these enhanced versions end up being the de facto choice. They're the same game as the first two, but with more stuff in it. When choosing which Sinnoh game to play, virtually everyone picks Platinum because it's the same game, but with way more Pokemon available. However, simply saying the enhanced version is the best for every situation where one exists would make for a pretty boring video. So I'm choosing to ignore them for the sake of making this video more interesting. I'm going to look at it with the lens of the two games have just come out and the enhanced version hasn't happened yet. Also, one other thing I need to clear up first is that this video will only be covering the first 4 generations. I originally intended to have all the generations involved, but the video was going to end up way too freaking long.
Yeah, side note, this video is going to be an hour and 6 minutes long because, yeah, these videos were super long.
My god. So I'm splitting it into gens 1 through 4 in this video, and gens 5 through 8 in an upcoming sequel that, when it's out, I will put it in the cards. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because apparently, like, 60% of my watch time comes from non-subscribers.
Barely. Not even 10% of my watch time is subscribed. So, subscribe. Just do it. Or your Pokemon will lose in a Nuzlocke. Also, subscribe to MNJTV. And MNJTV Plays. People don't subscribe to MNJTV Plays. Only MNJTV.
Come on, people, subscribe. You hurt me. And let's dive in to the best version to pick in the first 4 generations.
You suck, ads.
To the best version to pick in the first 4 generations.
Yeah.
First is Gen 1, choosing between red and blue.
Red.
Now, of course, yellow does exist, and yellow is the best of the 3 because it has all 3 of the starters, plus Charizard can actually learn Fly, but we're just focusing on red and blue. And to my knowledge, the only difference between the two of them is a couple in-game trades that don't really impact much, if anything, and then, of course, the version-exclusive Pokemon. The red exclusives are Ekans, Arbok, Oddish, Gloom, Vileplume, Mankey, Primate, Growlithe, Arcanine, Scyther, and Electabuzz. The blue exclusives are Sandshrew, Sandslash, Bellsprout, Weepinbell, Victreebel, Meowth, Persian, Vulpix, Ninetales, Pincer, and Magmar. So which group is better? Well, let's go through them step by step. First is Arbok versus Sandslash. They both have garbage level up movesets, but actually similar TM move pools. Sandslash gets more moves for its type though, and the ground type is far more useful than Poison in Generation 1. Add on Sandslash's superior attack stat, and it's clear that Sandslash is better. Next is Vileplume versus Victreebel. These Pokemon are very similar, but with two big differences. The first being their stats. Victreebel has a better base stat total under the Gen 1 stat system. The second difference is their moves. Vileplume got Petal Dance, which behaves the same as it does now, but with only 70 base power, and Victreebel got Razor Leaf, which is the same as it is now. Only 55 base power, but a high crit rate. In my opinion, Petal Dance is a much better move than Razor Leaf now, but back then when it was only...
Side note, Petal Blizzard is much better than both. In my opinion, both Razor Leaf and Petal Dance.
70 base power, they were more on par with each other. Therefore, since their main moves are about equal, but Victreebel's stats are better, I'm giving this one to Victreebel. Next is Primate versus Persian. Primate's fighting, typing, and better attack may make it seem like it's the superior pick, but Persian is actually a more
Crits are dependent on speed in Gen 1.
effective battler, even being one of the best Pokemon in the entire Gen 1 competitive metagame. That's because in Generation 1, a Pokemon's chance to land a critical hit was defined by its base speed. So faster Pokemon landed crits more often, and Persian is fast. Combine that with Slash, which multiplies a Pokemon's crit chance by 8, and that results in Persian landing a critical hit with Slash every time it attacks. It getting the stab boost from Slash makes it even more powerful, and it made it an extremely potent threat that did get walled by rock types, but it could also learn Bubble Beam to deal with that. Persian was a top tier Pokemon, and Primate was not, so Persian definitely the better one here. Next is Arcanine versus Ninetales. Arcanine had better HP, attack, and defense, but Ninetales had better special and speed. In my opinion, this makes Ninetales the better pick, since all fire-type moves fell under special in Gen 1. It could get stabbed from its highest attacking stat, while Arcanine could not. As an added bonus for Ninetales, Vulpix learns Flamethrower at level 35, while Growlithe learns it at level 50. That means you could safely evolve your Vulpix much earlier. Next is Scyther versus Pincer, and for me, this one is a toss-up. They both had extremely similar stats and equally awful move pools, neither of them learning any bug-type moves. I don't recommend using either of them in a Gen 1 game, though, so they're kind of toss-ups in both the sense that they're kind of equal, but also toss-ups in the sense that you could just toss them up into the trash can because you really should not use them. Finally is Electabuzz versus Magmar. They have near identical stats and have nearly identical move pools, just swapping electric moves for fire moves and vice versa. They're obtained at the same point as soon as you get Surf. Therefore, the only comparable metric is their typing, and based on that alone, I have to give it to Electabuzz. Neither of them match up well against any of the gyms that come after getting Surf, but Electabuzz fares a lot better in the Pokemon League. It's good against most of Lorelei's team, then parts of Agatha's, Lance's, and your rivals' teams. The only Pokemon in the entire league that are weak to fire are Lorelei's Jinx and your rival's Grass type. With all those comparisons done, the answer is clear. Blue is the better version to pick. Blue won all of the matchups except for a toss-up and one red victory. If you want the stronger version exclusives, play Blue. Now on to Generation 2, choosing between Gold
Should only play Yellow, though. Charizard doesn't learn Fly.
and Silver. Crystal is, of course, the third enhanced version. That is probably better, but actually, I'm not entirely sure because it doesn't have Ampharos, and that upsets me. The Gold exclusive Pokemon are Mankey, Primate, Growlithe, Arcanine, Spinarak, Aryados, Glygar, Teddiursa, Ursaring, and Mantine. The Silver exclusives are Meowth, Persian, Vulpix, Ninetales, Ladybug, Ladian, Delabird, Fanpea, Donphan, and Skarmory. The first two comparisons are between Gen 1 Pokemon and are actually the same pairs as in Gen 1, but the results flip. For Primate versus Persian, Primate is now better than Persian. Persian lost its guaranteed crit strategy due to changes in how critical hits work, and the fighting type became a lot better due to the additions of the dark and steel types. For Arcanine versus Ninetales, Arcanine now wins. In Gen 1, Ninetales got the win for having the superior special stat, meaning that Ninetales effectively had 100 in both special attack and special defense. But now due to the system change, its special attack has been dropped down to 81. Meanwhile, Arcanine had effectively 80 in both special stats before, but now its special attack is 100. Ninetales' base stat total dropped 19 points, while Arcanine's grew by 20, resulting in an enormous base stat total discrepancy of 50 points. It doesn't even matter that all fire moves are still special attacks. Arcanine now has the higher special attack and an even higher physical attack. It's just miles stronger than Ninetales. The choice isn't even close anymore. The first comparison of new Pokemon is Aryados versus Lanian. Neither are particularly impressive Pokemon, meaning they suck, but Aryados is better. That's because Bug, Poison, and Flying type moves are all physical moves at this point. Aryados has a solid base 90 attack, while Lanian's is a useless base 35. Next is Glygar versus Delabird.
The thing can barely even take a hit.
Glygar is not a good Pokemon due to mediocre stats and a poor move pool, but Delabird is even worse. Its base stat total of 330 makes it completely useless, so Glygar gets the win here. Next is Ursaring versus Donphan. Both have similar stats, so that's not an impact. Ursaring gets access to strong stab moves earlier, but they're normal type, meaning it's not going to have as good offensive capabilities since it can't deal super effective damage. Donphan is a ground type and gets the incredible
Normal got done dirty. You can't even do super effective damage.
Earthquake, but not until it's level 49. I decided to make this one a toss-up. Ursaring is better earlier, Donphan is better later on, but you have to wait a while for it to be any good. I think those two differences make them about even.
Time to refuel. Energy drink or...
They have the same stats, just with physical and special sides swapped around a bit. Both have meh level up movesets, but much better TM movesets. The main comparison is their typing, and I have to give this to Skarmory. Mantine has 2 weaknesses, one of them is 4 times, 1 immunity, and 5 resistances. Skarmory has 2 weaknesses, 2 immunities, and 9 resistances. Steel Flying is simply much better typing than Water Flying, plus it's nice to have more Steel type options. No one really needs more Water type options. Actually, there's one more comparison. Ho-Oh versus Lugia. Now these two are not technically version exclusives because you get one and then get the other later in the game after you've done a lot of stuff, and it's like level 70. So while they're not technically version exclusives, one of them you get a hell of a lot earlier than the other one. So it still matters which choice you go with, because it's one you'll get to use to take on the league and stuff like that. The two of them, of course, have the same base stat total, but Ho-Oh is more offensive, while Lugia is more defensive. Ho-Oh's move situation is better, though, since its signature move is Sacred Fire, not overlapping with Fly if you choose to teach it that. Lugia's signature move is Aeroblast, which does overlap with Fly. And in order to teach it a psychic move at a reasonable level, you need a TM. Ho-Oh has 3 weaknesses, one of them 4 times, 1 immunity, and 5 resistances. Lugia has 5 weaknesses, 1 immunity, and 3 resistances. This, to me, makes Ho-Oh's typing better. I'm giving Ho-Oh the win here. They're, of course, both incredible Pokemon. They're legendary Pokemon. But Ho-Oh's better typing and better signature move situation give it the win here. It's really annoying to me that you have to jump through so many hoops just to have Lugia learn a psychic move. So where does this put each game? Gold has Primate, Arcanine, Aryados, Glygar, and Ho-Oh. Silver has just Skarmory, and then Ursaring vs. Donphan was a toss-up. Therefore, Gold is the clear winner here. Before I move on to Generation 3, I want to real quick tell you about a new project I've started over on my second channel, MNJTV Plays, that I'm really excited about, and it's called MNJTV's Metronome League, aka the MML. In short, it's a Pokemon battling league of only metronome battles featuring 8 teams not associated with any particular person. so you can all just pick whichever one you want to root for, rather than just rooting for me. If you want to learn more, I have a video over on my second channel explaining all of it and introducing it and stuff like that, and I'm also selling shirts for all of the 8 teams. So if you have a favorite and you want to pick up a shirt to support it, the link is in the description below, and the shirts should also be displayed below the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to M&JTV Plays if you haven't, so you don't miss any of the MML battles, or any of my other fun gameplay content that I do over there. But now, back to picking versions. We're on Gen 3, starting with the Hoenn games, Ruby versus Sapphire. Of course, there's Emerald. It is better than Ruby and Sapphire, but we're not talking about it. Ruby's exclusives are Seedot, Nuzleaf, Shiftry, Mawile, Zangoose, Solrock, Groudon, and Latias. Sapphire's exclusives are Lotad, Lombre, Ludicolo, Sableye, Seviper, Lunatone, Kyogre, and Latias. Actually, Latios and Latias are not technically version exclusives, since you can catch the one that does not normally spawn in the wild in your game if you have the Eon ticket, an event exclusive item that is no longer available, making them effectively version exclusives now. The first comparison is Shiftry versus Ludicolo, and Ludicolo is easily superior here. Ludicolo has a far wider move pool and better stats. Yes, Shiftry has great physical attack, but Dark and Grass moves were special in Gen 3, so it didn't get to take advantage of them. Additionally, as I discussed in my best HM Mule in every game video, Lombre is an incredible HM Mule for the Hoenn games. Even if you're not using Ludicolo on your main battling team, having access to Lombre is a great perk. Next is Mawile versus Sableye. Both have equally horrible stats, but Sableye gets the edge for 2 reasons. The first is its typing, not actually having weaknesses at this point in time since Fairy didn't exist yet. The second reason is move pool. Sableye gets lots of Dark and Ghost type moves. Mawile literally doesn't learn a single Steel type attack. Sableye is bad. Mawile is useless. Next is Zangoose versus Seviper, and Zangoose is the easy victor here. While they have the same base stat total, Zangoose's stat spread is much more advantageous, giving it great attack and speed compared to Seviper's split investment in the 2 attack stats. Zangoose also has a wider move pool, and Normal is a much better type than Poison in this gen due to being resisted by less and having fewer weaknesses. Next is Solrock versus Lunatone. These two have very similar stats, with Solrock being more invested in the physical side and Lunatone in the special side. This means Solrock makes better use of the rock typing, while Lunatone makes better use of the psychic. Their move pools are also very similar, so I'm calling this one a toss-up. Next is Latios versus Latias, and these Pokemon are nearly identical in most everything. Super similar move pools, near identical stats, with Latios being more offensive and Latias being more defensive, and both are found post-game, therefore not having much of an impact on your playthrough. Both are excellent, and I couldn't find any factors that would make one top the other, so this is another toss-up. Finally is the big one, the box art difference Groudon versus Kyogre. Now both of these Pokemon are obviously incredible. Amazing stats, amazing move pools, amazing weather strategies. They're both just excellent across the board, and therefore I can't pick one or the other based on their attributes that are just a part of them. They're both equally good. However, I can pick one based on how they match up against the rest of the Hoenn games. For Wallace, Kyogre is better, since it can resist all the water attacks and fire off 100% accurate thunders if you teach it the move. They fare about equally against Sydney and Phoebe, but then Kyogre is better against Glacia due to not being weak to ice or water. It's better against Drake due to being able to learn ice-type moves, and finally, it's better against Steven due to having super effective coverage for 5 of Steven's Pokemon if it brings Thunder, Ice Beam, and a Water move. Groudon only covers 3 of them with Earthquake and Eruption. Groudon does learn Solar Beam, which is great to have on it if the sun is up, and that would add coverage for Claydol, but it doesn't learn Solar Beam until level 65, then you'd have to use a TM on it to give it the move before you fight Steven, which would be a waste because it's going to learn the move in like less than 10 levels. So both Groudon and Kyogre incredible Pokemon, but Kyogre matches up against the late game better. This means Ruby got Zangoose, while Sapphire got Ludicolo, Sableye, and Kyogre, and then the Latias and Space Rocks were toss-ups. Sapphire wins this matchup. Next is Fire Red versus Leaf Green, the first remix. These remakes, though, actually did not keep exactly the same version exclusives as the originals, and actually added a lot more of them. For Fire Red, they're Ekans, Arbok, Oddish, Gloom, Vileplume, Bellossom, Psyduck, Golduck, Growlithe, Arcanine, Shelter, Cloister, Electabuzz, Elekid, Scyther, Sizzlor, Wooper, Quagsire, Murkrow, Quillfish, Delabird, Skarmory, and Attack Form Deoxys. Okay, we're halfway there. Are you starting to see why I had to split this into two halves? Leaf Greens were Sandshrew, Sandslash, Bellsprout, Weepinbell, Victreebel, Vulpix, Ninetales, Slowpoke, Slowbro, Slowking, Staryu, Starmie, Magmar, Magby, Pincer, Azurill, Marill, Azumarill, Mischievous Sneasel, Remoraid, Octillery, Mantine, Defense Deoxys. This is my new version exclusive Poke Rap. Obviously, this is a lot. So to make things more reasonable, I'm not gonna mix Ninetales, Slowpoke, Slowbro, Slowking, Staryu, Starmie, Magmar, Magby, Pincer, Azurill, Marill, Azumarill, Mischievous Sneasel, Remoraid, Octillery, Mantine, Defense Deoxys. This is my new version exclusive Poke Rap. Obviously, this is a lot. So to make things more reasonable, I'm not gonna talk about most of them. Look, for all the Johto Pokemon, except maybe the ones that evolved from Kanto Pokemon, and then Deoxys, you can't get them till you beat the league. You can't use them on your main battling squad unless you want to modify it substantially later. They have a much smaller impact on your playthrough, and therefore, I don't think really should matter as much when selecting your version. This means I will only be looking at Kanto Pokemon you can get before the league. First is Arbok versus Sandslash, the same matchup as in Gen 1. Both still have pretty bad level up movesets with much wider TM movesets, and Sandslash still has better stats and the more useful ground typing. Like in Gen 1, Sandslash wins again. Next is Vileplume versus Victreebel, and yes, Bellossom is a thing, but again, you can't get it till after you beat the league, and also it's substantially worse than Vileplume. Just use Vileplume. Why did they make Bellossom? They could have given Farfetch'd or something in evolution instead. Like before, Vileplume and Victreebel's movesets are extremely similar, aside from Petal Dance versus Razor Leaf. However, due to the stat system change, both of them now have the same base stat total, with Vileplume leaning more toward defense and Victreebel more toward offense. This change actually benefits Vileplume a lot more, since Victreebel effectively got a massive nerf to its special defense. They now hit the same with their special moves, which are really all that matters since Poison was a terrible attacking type before the Fairy type showed up, so we don't really care about their Poison moves much. But Vileplume takes hits much better. Vileplume now gets the win. Next is Golduck versus Slowbro. Golduck has a slightly better base stat total with a more balanced spread, while Slowbro is more focused in bulk and attack power, while being much slower. Surprise! Both have access to plenty of water moves, although you'd likely just go for Surf, but Slowbro has the added bonus of being a Psychic type. Despite all the nerfs that the Psychic type got between Gens 1 and Gens 2, it's still an extremely good type in a Kanto playthrough specifically, due to the complete absence of Dark types, the very limited Ghost types that are also weak to Psychic, and the fact that the Bug types were still overall pretty weak and had very bad moves. Therefore, Slowbro, having the Psychic type, gives it an edge over Golduck. Next is Arcanine versus Ninetales. Like in Gen 2, Arcanine now has far better stats, and it gets the win. Next is Cloister versus Starmie. Cloister is Water-Ice type with a base stat spread wildly in favor of defense, and Starmie has a near identical base stat total, but with much more balanced stats, the best two of which are special attack and speed. Like with Golduck versus Slowbro, Starmie being a Psychic type, massive benefit to it, so I'm giving it the win. I do think it's weird that both Water Psychic types were Leaf Green exclusives, though. You would think one would be in one and the other would be in the other. Next is Electabuzz versus Magmar, and their stats were impacted similarly to each other, both of them receiving a buff to their special attack. They're both solid Pokemon, just with different type focuses, so I'm once again giving the win to Electabuzz due to the electric type being more helpful late game, which matters since both of these Pokemon are found later. The final comparison for the Kanto Pokemon is Scyther versus Pincer. And this comparison is much more one-sided this time around. Scyther gets Wing Attack and Fury Cutter as stab moves, which aren't great, but Pincer literally gets no Bug-type moves in Fire Red and Leaf Green still. It's been 2 whole generations!
Give Pincer Mega Horn.
Why didn't you give Pincer a bug move? Also, as an added point in favor for Scyther, if you want to, after you beat the league, you can evolve it into Scizor, which has the same base stat total, but much better typing. So, like, wow, super one-sided this one be. I was talking about bugs and I said B. That was a complete accident. So where does that leave us for Fire Red versus Leaf Green? Fire Red won with Vileplume, Arcanine, Electabuzz, and Scyther. Leaf Green won with Sandslash, Slowbro, and Starmie, meaning Fire Red had more and therefore won by 1 matchup. However, honestly, I think the margin of victory for Fire Red is larger, because Slowbro and Starmie are kind of just one Pokemon due to having identical typings, and it's very unlikely that you will use both. You go with Fire Red, yeah, you can't have a Water Psychic type, but you have more stronger team options. Now on to Gen 4, starting with the Sinnoh games, Diamond versus Pearl. Now, of course, there is Platinum, and of course, if you want to play a Sinnoh game, play freaking Platinum. The Diamond and Pearl Dex is just not good.
Yeah,
just
because
didn't include most of the new Gen 4 evolutions, which was silly.
Man.
So if you want to have a high-quality Sinnoh playthrough, play Platinum. But for the sake of fun, we're going to compare Diamond and Pearl. The Diamond exclusives are Seal, Dugong, Scyther, Scizor, Murkrow, Honchkrow, Larvitar, Pupitar, Tyranitar, Poochyena, Mightyena, Aron, Lairon, Aggron, Kecleon, Cranidos, Rampardos, Stunky, Skuntank, and Dialga. Kind of gave up on the rhythmic rap there at the end. My god, there's a lot. The Pearl exclusives are Slowpoke,
Go back to that.
Kecleon, Cranidos, Rampardos, Stunky, Skuntank, Duke. So if you want to have a high-quality Sinnoh playthrough, play Platinum. But for the sake of fun, we're going to compare Diamond and Pearl. The Diamond exclusives are Seal, Dugong, Scyther, Scizor, Murkrow, Honchkrow, Larvitar, Pupitar, Tyranitar, Poochyena, Mightyena, Aron, Lairon, Aggron, Kecleon, Cranidos, Rampardos, Stunky, Skuntank, and Dialga. Kind of gave up on the rhythmic rap there at the end. My god, there's a lot. The Pearl exclusives are Slowpoke, Slowbro, Slowking, Pincer, Mischievous, Mismagius, Houndour, Houndoom, Stantler, Spheal, Celio, Walrein, Shieldon, Bastiondon, Glameow, Perugly, and Palkia. Okay, I know this seems like a lot, because it is. However, most of these are post-game. And like I did with Fire Red and Leaf Green, post-game version exclusives matter a heck of a lot less. So for the sake of my sanity, I'm not caring about any of these version exclusives that you cannot get before the league. First is Honchkrow versus Mismagius. Both are obtained relatively early, so can be used in one form or another for most of the playthrough. Honchkrow's stats make it an offensive monster, but it's held back by its speed and defenses. Mismagius is faster and hits a bit less hard, but it's also frail on the physical side. I can't give either one an edge in the stat department, so instead I can do what I did for Groudon and Kyogre and see how well they match up against the major game battles. Murkrow and Honchkrow fare well against Gardenia, Maylene, Fantina, Aaron, and Lucien. Mischievous and Mismagius fare well against Maylene, Fantina, and Lucien. While Mismagius has better defensive typing, Honchkrow has much better offensive typing, which a lot of times can also function as defensive typing in a lot of these big matchups. So, while I think the stats on Honchkrow are a little wonky, its typing is pretty good for a lot of the playthrough, so I think it gets the win here. Next is Rampardos versus Bastiondon. Rampardos is pure rock with insane attack, good HP, and mediocre everything else, while Bastiondon is rock steel with incredible defenses and bad everything else. Because of these stat spreads, I'm giving the edge to Bastiondon. A massive attack stat, it's great,
Yeah, exactly.
but it's not that great if you never have a chance to use it because you're too frail or too slow to get a hit off before dying. Bastiondon's defenses make it so it'll stick around for a while, potentially even if it gets hit by a 4x super effective move. And yes, it does have 2 4x weaknesses, but it also has a booty load of resistances. Next is Skuntank versus Perugly, and this one is not close. Skuntank is the clear winner. Not only does Skuntank have a substantially higher base stat total, but Poison Dark is better typing than normal. Both only have 1 weakness and 1 immunity, but Poison Dark has more resistances and can actually deal super effective stab damage. Skuntank wins by a large margin. Finally is Dialga versus Palkia. Both obviously have typical bonkers legendary stats and incredible defensive typings. At the time, Palkia only had 1 weakness, and Dialga had only 2, then resisting or being immune to 10 of the 17 types. So I think Dialga gets the edge in typing. But for moves, Palkia's Spatial Rend is better than Dialga's Roar of Time, in my opinion. Spatial Rend has a high crit ratio, and therefore a very solid chance to do more than Roar of Time without a recharge turn. Both are incredible Pokemon. Dialga, better in typing. Palkia, better signature move. Therefore, I think they're a toss-up. That leaves Diamond having Honchkrow and Skuntank, while Pearl has Bastiondon. Diamond gets the victory here, but seriously just play Platinum. Finally, for this video is Heart Gold versus Soul Silver. And the version exclusives compared to the remakes didn't change that much. Heart Gold's exclusives are Mankey, Primate, Growlithe, Arcanine, Spinarak, Aryados, Glygar, Gliscor, Mantike, Mantine, Phanpy, Donphan, Sableye, Baltoy, Claydol, and Kyogre. For Soul Silver, they are Meowth, Persian, Vulpix, Ninetales, Ladybug, Lanian, Delabird, Skarmory, Teddiursa, Ursaring, Mawile, Gulpin, Swalot, and Groudon. Ho-Oh and Lugia are once again not technically version exclusives. It's the same thing as before. Depending on which one you play, you get one of them way earlier, so I'll still be comparing them. Essentially, the version exclusive list for these games is the same as the originals, but with more Pokemon added on, and Ursaring and Donphan swapping. The reason for that is that in the original Japanese and Korean releases of Gold and Silver, Donphan was in Gold, and Ursaring was in Silver. Yet for the international versions, they flipped it. Now that we're back at Heart Gold and Soul Silver, though, they put it back to what it was originally in Japan. But now for the comparisons, many of which will be short since it's comparisons we've already done. For Primate versus Persian, Primate wins again. The fighting type is more useful than the normal type when Dark and Steel types are around. For Arcanine versus Ninetales, it's once again the same as Gens 2 and 3. Arcanine has way better stats. Plus, now Arcanine can use physical fire moves thanks to the physical special split, so its main attacking stat is now even higher. Aryados versus Latian is closer now, since Latian can now use special bug and flying moves. Oh wait, no it actually can't. The only special flying move it can learn is Air Cutter, which isn't good, and can also only learn it at, like, the Battle Frontier move tutor. So, like, come on, Latian. That's enough for me to give Aryados the win for this one. Glygar versus Delabird is now a massively one-sided comparison.
Glygar.
Once you get the national dex, you can turn Glygar into the very strong and incredibly handsome Gliscor, while Delabird is still totally useless. Mantine versus Skarmory is the same as before. Skarmory wins due to having better typing. Donphan versus Ursaring is once again a toss-up. Despite Donphan appearing to get a ground move at an earlier level, magnitude at 19, it doesn't actually have access to that without a move reminder since it evolves from Phanpy at level 25, and Phanpy doesn't learn it. It'll be good once it has Earthquake, but again, that's pretty late. Ursaring will do big damage with Slash a lot earlier, so that evens things out. For Ho-Oh versus Lugia, Ho-Oh wins again for the same reason as before, having better access to good stab moves. Also, it's now even better than before since Sacred Fire is a physical move, allowing Ho-Oh to take advantage of its higher physical attack. For the remaining version exclusives, the Hoenn ones, I'm not going to cover them. Like with a couple other instances, they're pretty much just post-game Pokemon that are Swarm, and they're not even that good a Pokemon anyways, so I just don't think they matter. But even if they did, and all of them went in Soul Silver's favor, Heart Gold is still winning. With Primate, Arcanine, Aryados, Gliscor, and Ho-Oh under its belt compared to Soul Silver's Skarmory, there simply aren't enough version exclusives left to give Soul Silver the win. So to summarize, the winners of this version exclusive competition are Blue, Gold, Sapphire, Fire Red, Diamond, and Heart Gold.
Until the next
I'm excited to
one's
see
out.
which versions win when Part 2
wait,
comes
shoot,
out.
I forgot.
And when it comes out, you will know if you are subscribed.
Hey.
Thanks so much for watching, and an extra special thanks to my patrons over on Patreon, who are helping support my channel independent of fluctuating YouTube ad rates. If you want to help support me in the same way, the link is in the description below. If you want to check out some more of my fun Pokemon content, I recommend these videos here, and don't forget about MML merch. Alright, that's all I have.
At Biscuitville, we'll admit we're guilty of
No.
counting our chickens. With 3 great...
Michael here, and last August I made a video going over which version of each version pair I believe to be the best to pick, primarily based on which version has more useful and stronger version exclusive Pokemon. That video only had the first 4 generations though, because if it had all 8 of them, it would be way too long. My god, the first part was over 30 minutes with just 4 gens, and this
video
that also has
will
just 4
be
gens is going to be even longer than that.
1
Which,
hour.
by the way, if you haven't figured it out, this is gens 5 through 8. I'm finally finishing it. Sorry it took me so long. These are a lot of work. So yes, the title says every generation. In this video is not every generation, but I've now covered every generation. So I'm fine. Thank you for listening. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, since less than half of my viewers are subscribed, which is deeply troubling. And let's dive into... Ha-ha! It is I, Guarantee Boy! Oh, come on,
Hi,
not
Guarantee
again.
Boy.
Dude, I have a lot of video to get to. What do you want? Oh, you don't need to worry about the rest of the video, for you won't be able to read your script. I have stolen your glasses. Grunty Boy, do you not see
You might have
that I
stolen
am
mine.
currently wearing glasses? Well, oh my god, do I need glasses? Well, if you do, I recommend getting some like mine from Jins, the sponsor of today's video.
Yeah, I believe
They've just
so.
come out with the Jins Pokemon model, which features a large variety of Pokemon-themed frames and colors, like the Snorlax, Mew, and Kanto models, plus more. Mine happen to be the Cyndaquil model, and they are fabulous. But even if you don't need glasses, you should still get a pair from them, because they have some really nice blue light filtering lenses that make the load on your eyes a lot easier when you're staring
Also, BDSP is now out.
at screens all day. I do enjoy Pokemon. Stealing them, specifically, but I'm still not sure about this. After all, I won't be able to try on the glasses ahead of time. Ah, but you can! With their virtual try-on feature, you can easily see how the frames will look on you from the comfort of your own, hideout. Oh, well that's brilliant! Wow, I can't wait to start my own
Diamond.
glasses journey. Just like starting a Pokemon journey. Well, you can do just that by heading to jins.life/MNJTV, linked in the description below, and you can use code MNJTV15 for $15 off. By the way, you mentioned a Pokemon journey. How did yours start? Illegally. Anyways, I'm off to try some pairs on. Ta-ta!
Of course.
Well, that was an oddly pleasant exchange. Well, anyways, thanks again to Gens for sponsoring, and let's dive into the best versions to pick in Gens 5 through 8. First up, we have Black versus White. Now, there are quite a lot of version exclusives, but like with the first video, I only care about the ones you can obtain before beating the main story. I'm evaluating these Pokemon based on their viability in a playthrough, and a playthrough, as I've been defining it in my challenges, is until you beat the main story. So Pokemon you can find after that don't matter as much, and I'm going to trim them out because it makes the video a lot shorter too. Black versions exclusives are Gothita, Gothorita, Gothitelle, Volibeye, Mandibus, Tornadus, and Reshiram. For White, they are Solosis, Duosion, Reuniclus, Rufflet, Braviary, Thundurus, and Zekrom. First is Gothitelle versus Reuniclus. Both are Psychic-type Pokemon with the same base stat totals, just different stat spreads. Both have at least one very good regular ability, competitive on Gothitelle and Magic Guard on Reuniclus. They also have extremely similar level-up movesets. It's close, but I'm giving the edge to Reuniclus. Gothitelle only has a base speed of 65, which is not very good. Reuniclus has lower speed, but I think that's fine since it wasn't going to outspeed anything anyways, so it gets to use those extra points it didn't put into speed into bulk, meaning it's only a little less bulky, but hits a lot harder. Next is Mandibus versus Braviary. Unfortunately, both of these Pokemon, while still coming before the league, arrive extremely late. Volibeye and Rufflet are not available until the route right before the Victory Road. Even then, they're only found at a max level of 41, which means you'd have to grind them up 13 levels to evolve them, which is, God, Univa's evolution levels are, well, they're bad. Additionally, by this point in the story, you probably already have a Pokemon that is your main flyer, because you have 8 badges. You've probably been flying around by now, so to be perfectly honest, this one's a toss-up because I don't recommend either of them. If they had a better evolution level and came earlier, then yeah, but not in this case. The next matchup, Tornadus versus Thundurus, is also very late. You can't trigger the roaming until after you have 8 badges. I highly doubt you'd use one on your team, but I guess I can give a slight edge to Thundurus. Electric Flying is better typing than Pure Flying, having more offensive coverage and having fewer weaknesses. Finally is Reshiram versus Zekrom. These show up extremely late, literally, as the final main story battles are happening. They have similar stats, one being a physical attacker over a special attacker. Zekrom's typing is better due to having 1 more resistance, since Fairy did not exist in Gen 5, but Reshiram is better against 1 more of N's and Ghetsis' Pokemon than Zekrom. I think these two are a toss-up. Another difference between Black and White is the first example of a version-exclusive gym leader. You fight Iris in Black and Drayden in White, but this doesn't really matter. Their teams are the same aside from the Pokemon's genders, so that doesn't matter. In summary, I think the only comparison that really matters at all is Gothitelle versus Reuniclus, and even then it was close. But I'm still giving the edge to White version, because Reuniclus and Thundurus both won, and also because Opelucid City looks a lot better in White version. Could we talk about this? The rustic temple with the greenery, it's fabulous, as opposed to in Black version, where neon vomited everywhere. Next up is Black 2 and White 2, which have the same version exclusives, but with more added on top, because of all the old Pokemon that became available before the League. The only new ones before the League in Black 2 are Beedrill, Magmortar, Lopunny, and Grumpig, while in White 2 they are Butterfree, Electivire, Delcatty, and Camerupt. For Beedrill versus Butterfree, they are both bad and you should not use either of them. However, for the sake of comparison, I'm going with Butterfree. The Fairy type doesn't exist yet, so Beedrill's Poison typing is more of a hindrance than a helper, since it makes it weak to Psychic, a type it wouldn't normally be good against. Next is Magmortar versus Electivire. Magmortar is slightly slower but slightly bulkier compared to Electivire. While their offensive capabilities are about the same, Magmortar has the edge here. Magmortar has access to a bountiful amount of special fire moves, while the best physical electric move Electivire learns by level up is Thunder Punch. It is tough being a physical attacking electric type if you don't have a signature move, because your options are Thunder Fang, which is weak, Thunder Punch, which is underwhelming, and then freaking Wild Charge, which does recoil. Like, come on guys, give Zing Zap to more Pokemon than just Togedemaru and Pincurchin. As for gym matchups, Magmortar is good against Roxy's Whirlipede, Bird's Gym, Skyla's Skarmory, and all of the Colress battles. Electivire is good against Skyla's and Marlin's Gym, but that's about it. I think it's clear that Magmortar is the winner here. Next is Lopunny versus Delcatty, and this one is no contest. Lopunny's base stat total is 100 points higher than Delcatty's. Finally is Grumpig versus Camerupt. Both have similar base stat totals, but Grumpig's spread is better, balancing bulk, speed, and offense, while Camerupt has equal physical and special attack, resulting in not enough speed and defenses. Neither are very helpful against the gyms that come after their obtainment point, Drayden and Marlin, but Camerupt is great against Colress, and Grumpig is great against Marshall. They are close, but I'm giving the edge to Grumpig. Like I said, I think its stat spread makes it more effective, and not having a 4x weakness is quite nice. So those are the new pre-League version exclusives, but there are some other differences that impact the old version exclusives that we need to discuss. The first is that Mandibus and Braviary are actually found at a reasonable point this time. They can be found in the overworld on Route 4. Mandibus on Thursdays in Black 2, and Braviary on Mondays in White 2. So now I'm actually going to delve into their differences, because it matters now. They have the same base stat total, but Mandibus is far more defensive, while Braviary is more offensive. These overworld ones will always have their hidden abilities, Weak Armor for Mandibus and Defiant for Braviary, and in my opinion, Defiant is far better. Mandibus has the dark secondary typing, while Braviary's extra typing is normal. It was a tough call, but I gotta give the edge to Braviary, the main reason being the abilities. Mandibus is designed to be defensive, but Weak Armor is an awful ability for a defensive Pokemon. Yeah. While Defiant is just an incredible ability for any physical attacker. So Braviary doesn't have the extra dark coverage, but the abilities just make a huge difference. Also, another change that's important to mention is that the legends that were version exclusives in Black and White do not matter for Black 2 and White 2. Tornadus and Thundurus aren't even found natively in the game, and then Reshiram and Zekrom have switched games, but they're found post-game. And remember, I only care about the ones you can get before the league. That leaves us with Black 2 having won with Magmortar, Lopunny, and Grumpig. White 2 won with Butterfree, Reuniclus, and Braviary. This looks to be a tie, but I can break it by eliminating Pokemon you're unlikely to use. Lopunny is not that good before it's Mega, and there are better normal types if you want one. Grumpig also comes very late and is definitely inferior to other psychic types like Gothitelle. Butterfree is, well, it's Butterfree. That leaves Black 2 with Magmortar and White 2 with Reuniclus and Braviary, giving White 2 the win. Oh, and also White 2 has the better looking Opelucid City, of course.
Oh, wow. My guy Cannon.
Full screen HD, let me take another picture, let me pull it to the pre-show.
Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Thank you, Mike.
City, of course. Now to Gen 6, starting with X and Y. And these games are a little bit weird with their version exclusives because some of them can become not version exclusives if you get the right Friend Safari. But the Friend Safari is post-game, so we don't care about it. Can I get a hail yeah? For X, the fully evolved pre-league exclusives are Pincer, Mightyena, Sawk, Slurpuff, Starmie, Hound Doom, Aggron, Cloister, and Xerneas. For Y, they are Cloister, Heracross, Tyranitar, Liepard, Throw, Aromatisse, Manectric, Dragalge, and Yveltal. First is Pincer versus Heracross, and Heracross is the easy winner. While their stats are similar, Heracross is actually a fighting type and therefore gets Stab from its fighting moves. Pincer does not. Next is Mightyena versus Liepard. Liepard has noticeably better stats, so I'm giving it the win here. Next is Sawk versus Throw. Sawk is faster and hits harder, while Throw is slower and bulkier. For a playthrough, I personally tend to prefer the faster attackers over bulkier Pokemon, since in most major battles, you'll have the type advantage and won't have any problems if you can outspeed an OHKO. So because of my personal preferences in that regard, I'm giving Sawk the win. Next is Slurpuff versus Aromatisse. Slurpuff has a slightly better base stat total than Aromatisse, but it has a glaring flaw. It doesn't get Moonblast, the best fairy move in the game. Why would you make any fairy-type special attackers that cannot get Moonblast? Just... what? Granted, it can get Dazzling Gleam via TM, but Aromatisse gets Moonblast by level up, and also hits harder, so yeah, Aromatisse is better. Just not a phrase I ever thought I would utter. Next is Starmie versus Cloister, and here are their stats. Clearly, Starmie is quite a bit more balanced. Since their secondary typings don't matter a whole lot for the major boss battles, I'm giving the edge to Starmie. Great speed and special attack is very nice. Meanwhile, Cloister has incredible defense, decent attack on both ends, meh speed, and then terrible special bulk. It's just a weird spread. Next up is Hound Doom versus Manectric. Hound Doom is an easy win here, since not only does it have better stats, but having two types allows it to be useful against more major boss battles, with either Fire or Dark helping out with the Grass, Electric, Psychic, and Ice gyms, plus the Steel Elite Four battle, while Electric helps with only the Water Elite Four battle. Next is Aggron versus Tyranitar. Aggron has far more resistances and fewer weaknesses, but 2 of them are 4 times. Aggron also evolves 13 levels lower than Tyranitar, but since you find Lairon and Pupitar at about level 45 in Terminus Cave, the evolution level is not as much of a problem. The stat department shows us a clear winner though. Tyranitar has vastly superior stats due to being a pseudo-legend, so that's enough for me to declare it the winner. Next is Cloister versus Dragalge. They have very similar stats, with Cloister having better special attack and Dragalge having better special defense. They're pretty close, but I have to give the win to Dragalge. Its Dragon Poison typing will help with the Grass and Fairy gyms, plus the Dragon Elite 4 member. Cloister's Pure Water typing is only really helpful for one of Grant's Pokemon, and then against the Fire Elite 4 member. Additionally, since both of these Pokemon are slow, defense matters more, and Dragalge has better defenses. Finally is Xerneas versus Yveltal. Pronunciation, intentional. They have the exact same stat spread, just with Xerneas being fair.
Anyone watching that video, come to my video. The pronunciation of Yveltal started in a Pokemon Talk episode. He knows it's Yveltal. Yveltal? Is it Eviltal? Is it Yveltal or Eviltal? Or
Type and Yveltal being Dark type. They are obtained pretty late, like most legends, only right before the 8th gym. I'm giving the edge to Xerneas here, simply because Fairy is a much better typing than Dark Flying. Additionally, Geomancy is an insane boosting move, especially if you use a Power Herb, although you probably wouldn't do that in a playthrough. Also, Xerneas is better in the final few battles of the game, helping out with the Dragon Elite 4 member, while Yveltal doesn't have a type advantage against any of the Elite 4. They're box art legends, so of course they're both amazing, but Xerneas I think is just a bit better. This means X won with Sock, Starmie, Hound Doom, and Xerneas, while Y won with Heracross, Lightbird, Aromatisse, Tyranitar, and Dragalge. It was close, but to me this means that Y gets the overall win. Now on to Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and they have the same version exclusives as the original Ruby and Sapphire, just with some more. However, those extras only come after you get the National Dex, which is after you have defeated or caught Kyogre or Groudon. Now this does technically mean that it's before you fight the League, but I still don't think they should count. They're basically all just fossils or legendaries that have a lot of hoops to jump through. Literally, like having a level 100 Pokemon in your party or having all the Lake Guardians, just a bunch of crazy stuff like that. And then there are a few left, but they're not really game-changing. So for the sake of simplicity and my sanity, I'm just going to focus on the version exclusives for most of the main story before the National Dex. For some of the version exclusive matchups, my answers are the same as they were for Ruby and Sapphire. The Latias and the Space Rocks, Solrock and Lunatone, are toss-ups, while Omega Ruby has Zangoose over Sviper, and Alpha Sapphire has Ludicolo over Shiftry. One of Shifty's big flaws in the original is that it's a physical attacker, but all dark and grass moves were special attacks. That's not the case anymore. It has some good physical grass and dark moves, but I still think Ludicolo's better because it's just a lot more versatile. However, there are now 2 big changes to the original matchups. The first is Mawile versus Sableye. Originally, I gave Sableye the win since Mawile was totally useless, but the game has changed. Mawile is now a Steel Fairy type, and both of these Pokemon can now Mega Evolve. Latios and Latias can also now Mega Evolve, but like, it equally benefits both of them, so who cares? Both have great typing, and while they both have the same base stat total, Mega Mawile has huge power, meaning its attack stat is effectively doubled. This massive attack power is a big point in Mawile's direction, but there is another. The Mawilite can be found long before you unlock Mega Evolution, but the same is not true for Sableye. Its stone is not found until the Origin Cave in Sutopolis. Mega Mawile has more power and is accessible earlier, which makes it the winner. The other big difference is that Groudon and Kyogre now have their primal reversions. Kyogre's, of course, helps it out a lot, but Groudon benefits from its more. The Desolate Land Sunlight completely removes any threats from water attacks, and it becomes a fire type that it now gets stabbed from, meaning its only weakness is ground, which is ironic for the land Pokemon. Plus, it gets Solar Beam at a lower level, and even if it didn't, TMs don't break anymore, so you can now have it know Solar Beam before rolling into the league. In Ruby and Sapphire, I gave Kyogre the win because it matched up better against those last few late-game battles, but that's not the case anymore. Groudon is now vastly superior against Wallace since the sunlight completely stops all of his water attacks, and then he decimates most of Sydney's team, all of Glacia's team since it's no longer weak to ice, and because the sun stops her from setting up Hail. Hail yeah! Or maybe in this case, Hail no. And it has super
Hail
effective
no
coverage
for
for 4
Glacia.
of Steven's 6 Pokemon. Primal Groudon is busted. More busted than Kyogre in my eyes, so it now gets the win. This means
They're
Omega
both
Ruby has
busted.
Zangoose, Mega Mawile, and Primal Groudon, while Alpha Sapphire just has Ludicolo. Omega Ruby gets the win. Now on to Gen 7, starting with Sun and Moon. The fully evolved exclusives in Sun are Alolan Ninetales, Rampardos, Whimsicott,
Cranius.
Paracasta, Braviary, Passimian, Turtonator, and Solgaleo. In Moon, they are Alolan Sandslash, Bastiondon, Lilligant, Archeops, Mandibus, Oranguru, Drampa, and Lunala. There are Ultra Beast exclusives as well, but say it with me, kids. They are post-game, so they are lame, and we don't care. Get them out of here. First is Alolan Ninetales versus Alolan Sandslash. Alolan Ninetales has a much better base stat total and only has 1 4x weakness instead of 2, making it superior. Next is Rampardos versus Bastiondon. In Diamond and Pearl, I gave Bastiondon the edge, and I'm doing that here again. Rampardos' stat spread just isn't good. Its attack is incredible, but it's too slow and too frail to make use of it often enough. Next is Whimsicott versus Lilligant. Their stats are similar, with Whimsicott being faster and Lilligant hitting harder, but I'm giving the edge to Whimsicott. Its fairy typing dramatically improves its coverage capabilities, and Prankster is a much better ability than any of Lilligant's. Next is Paracasta versus Archeops, and Archeops definitely wins. Despite its ability, Archeops is incredible in a playthrough, most of the time being able to outspeed an Oko any playthrough opponent before it can have its stats dropped by its health getting lower. Next is Braviary versus Mandibus. I don't recommend either of them since you'll be waiting forever to evolve them, since they're caught at a low level but don't evolve until over level 50. Because of this, I'm making it a toss-up. I should mention that your Mandibus would not have weak armor because you can find them without their hidden abilities in Sun and Moon, but who cares if it doesn't have weak armor if you're stuck with a Vullaby until level 54? No thank you. They're both garbage when they're not evolved, and they evolve too late. Get them away from me. Next is Passimian versus Oranguru. Passimian is a fighting-type offensive Pokemon, while Oranguru is a psychic normal defensive Pokemon. Both are found in the lush jungle. Passimian's fighting typing is good against Olivia, both in the Kahuna battle and the League, plus Nanu. Oranguru is good against the Totem Kamo-O and the Elite 4-member Hollow. Since Passimian matches up better against 3 battles as opposed to Oranguru's 2, I'm giving Passimian a slight edge. Next is Turtonator versus Drampa, and I don't even need to compare any of their battle attributes, because there is only one factor necessary to make this decision. Turtonator is found on Blush Mountain between the Electric and Ghost Trials. Drampa isn't found until Mount Lanakila, you know, the effective Victory Road, when one of them can be used for a solid chunk of the playthrough, and the other one would be one of the last frickin' Pokemon you can find. Obviously, the choice is Turtonator. Finally is Solgaleo versus Lunala. Both have amazing stats, abilities, and movesets, so the main difference is just typing. This leads me to pick Solgaleo. Lunala's Psychic Ghost typing has 2 4x weaknesses, 2 immunities, and 2 resistances. Solgaleo has more weaknesses, but none of them are 4x. It also has an immunity and a plethora of resistances. In my eyes, Steel Psychic is just better than Ghost Psychic. This means Sun won with Alolan Ninetales, Whimsicott, Passimian, Turtonator, and Solgaleo. Moon won with Bastiondon and Archeops, while Braviary and Mandibus were toss-ups. Sun is the clear winner here. Next up is Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. They have the same exclusives as Sun and Moon, plus with more added on. However, a chunk of those are the Ultra Beasts and Legendaries you can find in the Ultra Wormhole, which I believe is before the League. But like with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, who really cares, man? It's so late. We don't need to talk about them. Just like, there's so many. And it's just... The new fully evolved Ultra Sun exclusives that I care about are Hound Doom, Golurk, and Cloister.
Need a power-up? Keep on rocking it with Rockin' Protein Energy.
Are Hound Doom, Golurk, and Cloister. In Ultra Moon, they are Manectric, Claydol, and Dragalge, and also the Basculin forms, but like, they are the same, other than their abilities, and the abilities aren't that different, so like, we're not talking about them. For Hound Doom versus Manectric, I'm making the same call as in X and Y. Hound Doom. It simply has much better stats and more offensive coverage. I'm doing the same for Cloister versus Dragalge. Dragalge doesn't have a boss battle advantage anymore, being good against the Dragon and Fairy Trial, while Cloister is good against Olivia in the League and Habu. However, I'm still giving the win to Dragalge because I think its stat spread is better, and its more unique typing means you're less likely to have an existing overlap on your team, which matters since you get it late game. Finally is Golurk versus Claydol, and the edge goes to Claydol. Golurk hits harder but is slow and not that bulky. Claydol has far superior bulk, which lets it stick around for more hits. Also, Baltoy evolves at a lower level, making it more useful sooner. So the comparison table for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon is the same as Sun and Moon, but with Hound Doom added to the Ultra Sun side, and Dragalge and Claydol added to the Ultra Moon side. Clearly, Ultra Sun still has the advantage and wins the matchup. Now on to Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. Let's Go Pikachu has the partner Pikachu, the Sandslashes, Vileplume, Primate, the Mucks, and Scyther. Let's Go Eevee has the partner Eevee, Arbok, the Ninetales, Alolan Persian, Victreebel, Weezing, and Pincer. Now you may have noticed something weird about these lists as you were scrolling. Growlithe and Cantonian Meowth are version exclusives, but Arcanine and Persian are not. That's because in Let's Go Pikachu, you can get a gift Persian in Vermilion City, and in Let's Go Eevee, you can get a gift Arcanine. This screws everything up. In previous Kanto games, Arcanine was the counterpart of Ninetales, and Persian was the counterpart of Primate. But now, are Arcanine and Persian counterparts? But then, like, does that make Primate and Ninetales counterparts? Which is weird, because they're found in completely different places? I don't know. This is a mess. This has gone on too long, and I'm kind of losing my mind. To preserve my sanity, because this video's been so long, and it took me a really long time to write it, I'm not worrying about Primate and Ninetales, because, like, they're very different Pokemon. Really should not be compared. So, I'm just gonna ignore those. And also Arcanine and Persian. It's my channel, I do what I want. Please don't hate me. For Pikachu versus Eevee, I'm going with the partner Eevee. Pikachu is a good electric specialist, but Eevee has access to a lot more really good exclusive moves with a lot more coverage. Next is Sandslash versus Arbok. Like in previous generations, Sandslash wins. It's got better stats, really good exclusive moves with a lot more.
Splishy Splash, Zippy Zap, Floaty Fall, Batty Bad, Bouncy Bubble, Buzzy Buzz, Freezy Frost, Glitzy Glow, Ayo, Sappy Seed, Sizzly Slide, and Sparkly Swirl. Those names are dumb. And also fun.
Coverage. Next is Sandslash versus Arbok. Like in previous generations, Sandslash wins. It's got better stats, and the ground typing is more useful than the poison typing, especially considering how few fairy types there are in Kanto. Then is Alolan Sandslash versus Alolan Ninetales. Like in the Alola games, Alolan Ninetales has better stats by a sizable margin, and therefore is better. Next is Vileplume versus Victreebel. Vileplume gets the edge because its stat spread is better. I don't like that Victreebel develops both its physical and special attack, since it makes it lose out in bulk. Vileplume puts more investment into just special attack, making it bulkier and able to hit harder. Next is Muck versus Weezing. Like the previous pair, one of them puts more investment into one attacking stat, while the other does not. And I think this makes Weezing's overall viability suffer, since it doesn't hit as hard and is less bulky. So I think Muck is better. Next is Alolan Muck versus Alolan Persian. This is easy, since Alolan Muck has a much higher base stat total and better typing, only having one weakness to ground. Finally is Scyther versus Pincer. Scyther is a bit faster, but Pincer hits a bit harder. I'm giving the edge to Scyther because of its extra stab flying coverage. Scyther doesn't learn X-Scissor until a much later level, but the X-Scissor TM is accessible around the same time as Scyther, so that isn't an issue. This leaves Let's Go Pikachu with wins for Sandslash, Vileplume, Muck, Alolan Muck, and Scyther. Let's Go Eevee won with Partner Eevee and Alolan Ninetales. Let's Go Pikachu gets the win. Finally is Generation 8, Sword and Shield, and a big difference in these is the version-exclusive gym leaders. In Sword, you fight Bee and Gordy, and then in Shield, you fight Alistair and Melanie. Which of these is better? I don't have a preference. I didn't think either of them were that difficult. So, which ones do you think are cooler? Doesn't matter to me. That means I only care about the version-exclusive Pokemon, and dear God, the list of version exclusives is as long as hell. I'm gonna be real, I am exhausted of doing this. So I'm not gonna care about any of the legendary Pokemon in the Crown Tundra, because who gives a crap? You shouldn't be using those on a playthrough team anyways if you want to have fun. And then 2, any version exclusive matchups that have happened before, I am making the same winner happen. With a few exceptions, because there's some of them where I had one of them win in one game and another one win in its remake, and I'll talk about those. For Shiftry versus Ludicolo, the winner is Ludicolo. For Mawile versus Sableye, the winner is Sableye. There's no Mega Evolution anymore, so Mawile is no longer overpowered, and also it does get Steel and Fairy moves, which it was not even a Fairy type in Gen 3, but they come a lot later than Sableye's stab moves, so I'm giving Sableye an edge because of that. Solrock versus Lunatone is a toss-up. Gothitelle versus Reuniclus, Reuniclus wins. For Braviary versus Mandibus, Mandibus is better. Mandibus has not won before, but you can actually get one that does not have weak armor this time, and you can just catch a wild Mandibus so you don't have to deal with a Vullaby the whole time. So Mandibus is better, the Dark Stab is useful. For Slurpuff versus Aromatisse, Aromatisse is the winner. For Passimian versus Oranguru, Passimian's the winner. Oh, I just realized I made Passimian the winner in Gen 7 because of the boss battle matchups. God, who cares? Passimian, plays sports. Sports are fun. For Turtonator versus Drampa, Turtonator wins. They're obtained at the same place now, but the fire offense is more helpful than the normal offense. Exactly. In the Isle of Armor, there is Pincer versus Heracross. The winner is Heracross. And for Clawitzer versus Dragalge, Dragalge wins. Okay, so those are the repeats. Now on to the new ones. For the new Galarian forms and Galarian evolutions, Sword has Surfetch'd and Galarian Darmanitan, while Shield has Cursula and Galarian Rapidash. It's not really clear which one is the counterpart of which, because they're found in very different places, so what I'm going to do is just match them up based on what they are. Surfetch'd versus Cursula because they are new species, and Galarian Darmanitan versus Galarian Rapidash because they are new forms. For Surfetch'd versus Cursula, I'm giving the edge to Surfetch'd strictly because the fighting type is more useful, matching up well against the Rock and Ice Gym. Wait, no, not the Ice Gym, because it's only in Sword. Frickin'. Several of Raihan's Pokemon and the Chairman Rose battle. Cursula's Ghost typing really only comes into play against the Ghost Gym, which it is also weak to. For Darmanitan versus Rapidash, the edge goes to Rapidash because it is obtained far earlier in the game before the 5th gym, while you can't get Galarian Darumaka until after you have all 8 badges. Next is Scrafty versus Toxicroak. Both have the useful fighting type, but I'm giving the edge to Toxicroak because its poison typing is helpful against the large amount of fairy types you fight. Scrafty's dark type doesn't get as much use since the Ghost Gym is not in Sword. Next is Flapple versus Appletun, and I'm giving the edge to Appletun. Flapple's meant to be a frailer attacker, but I don't think it's fast enough to make that work. Next is Stonjourner versus Ice-Q, and Ice-Q is just a far better Pokemon. Its ability can be really fun and effective, while Stonjourner's stat spread is just really weird to work with. Next are the Pseudo-Legend exclusives in the base game, not the DLC. So Kamo-O and Hydreigon in Sword, and then Tyranitar and Goodra in Shield. I'm matching up Tyranitar and Kamo-O because they're both the Dusty Bowl roamers, and then matching up Hydreigon and Goodra. For Hydreigon versus Goodra, Goodra is better. Hydreigon is a better Pokemon in competitive, but I'm evaluating this based on playthrough viability, and Zweilous simply evolves too late. For Kamo-O versus Tyranitar, I'm going Tyranitar. I like its higher investment in physical attack as opposed to Kamo-O's split spread. In the Crown Tundra, we have Amistar versus Kabutops, and despite my loyalty to Lord Helix, I'm picking Kabutops. Its physical attack gives it more rock-type offensive options. Amistar's only special rock options are the weak Ancient Power or the 2-turn Meteor Beam. Next in Crown Tundra, there is Salamence versus Garchomp, and the edge goes to Garchomp. If you catch them in their base forms, you'll be waiting a long time before you can use Salamence's secondary flying type for offense. A Gibble can run with ground moves right away, and it's a very useful typing. Finally would be Zacian versus Zamazenta, but they're post-game, so they are lame. Oh, we don't care. Get them out of here. So that leaves Sword winning with Passimian, Turtonator, and Surfetched, while Shield won with Ludicolo, Sableye, Reuniclus, Mandibus, Heracross, Dragalge, Galarian Rapidash, Toxicroak, Appleton, Ice Cube, Goodra, Tyranitar, Kabutops, and Garchomp. Okay, alright, yeah, clearly Shield won. I picked the wrong version. So there we have it. After many months and a new year, I have finally figured out the best
I've
version to pick.
finally chosen the best.
I'm so tired. So the last thing we're going to do is just summarize all of them, including the ones from the first video. The list of the better versions is Blue, Gold, Sapphire, Fire Red, Diamond, Heart Gold, White, White 2, Y, Omega Ruby, Sun, Ultra Sun, Let's Go Pikachu, and Shield. Thank you so much for watching, and special thanks to my patrons over on Patreon, who are helping support my channel independent of fluctuating YouTube ad rates, which are booty butts, in January, if you didn't know. And if you want to help support me in the same way, the link is in the description below. Also, if you want to check out some more of my fun Pokemon content, I recommend these videos here. Alright, that's all I have for now. So until next time, Advance! Gotta catch them all!